It was a sunny afternoon on the university campus when Sarah, a 20-year-old young woman, locked eyes with Jen for the first time. Both were in the same literature course but had never exchanged more than a few words during classes. That day, however, something changed. Jen, with a genuine and welcoming smile, approached Sarah during the break and invited her to join her group of friends in the cafeteria. Sarah, who often felt out of place in the university environment, found an unexpected connection in Jen. They quickly discovered a shared passion for fantasy literature, epic movies, and deep discussions about dreams and personal fears. Their bond grew stronger with each laugh, each secret shared, and each challenge faced together. Throughout their first year of college, Sarah and Jen's friendship flourished. Together, they explored the campus, discussed their readings, and helped each other overcome the challenges of initial exams and academic assignments. It was a friendship that seemed unbreakable, a constant support amidst the pressures of university life. Jen was the friend Sarah had always wanted, loyal, fun, and always present. When Sarah felt overwhelmed, Jen was there to offer a shoulder to lean on and words of encouragement. When Jen achieved something, Sarah was the first to cheer and celebrate her victories. They were like heart sisters, with a bond that seemed stronger than any challenge that could come their way. During the long periods between semesters, they spent hours together, creating memories that seemed destined to last forever. They enthusiastically planned the future, promising that despite any changes, they would always be there for each other. As the years went by, Sarah and Jen's friendship continued to thrive. However, as they approached the end of college, the transition to the real world brought new challenges. The onset of internships and the pressure to find a job began to reveal the first cracks in their friendship. At first, it was just small things that Sarah noticed. Jen seemed increasingly controlling about the activities they did together. If Sarah wanted to hang out with other friends or explore new activities, Jen showed disappointment or made subtle comments that left Sarah feeling guilty. Sarah initially ignored these feelings, believing it was just a phase or a misunderstanding. But the signs became more frequent and evident. Jen started imposing her opinions on Sarah's choices, from career decisions to relationships. At a dinner with Jen's group of friends, Sarah realized that she always ended up giving in, staying silent to avoid conflict. The group, though welcoming, seemed to align with Jen, making Sarah feel like an outsider in a circle where she should have felt comfortable. One night stood out vividly in Sarah's memory. They were all gathered at Jen's house, celebrating a friend's birthday. Amidst laughter and conversation, Jen began talking about Sarah's future plans in a dismissive manner. "Do you really think you're going to achieve that?" Jen asked, laughing in a way that made Sarah feel small and undervalued. The group laughed along, and Sarah forced a smile, but inside, she felt a pang of pain and humiliation. These uncomfortable moments began to accumulate, creating a growing sense of dissatisfaction within Sarah. She questioned herself, her self-esteem dwindling under the weight of subtle criticisms and manipulations. The pattern became clear. Jen wanted to control and shape Sarah according to her own expectations, rather than supporting her as before. Despite the difficulties, Sarah still had many good moments that made her hesitate to take any drastic action. The happy memories and the long shared history weighed heavily on her mind. She wanted to believe that things could improve, that Jen would return to being the caring and supportive friend she once knew. However, doubt persisted, growing with each uncomfortable interaction and each comment that undermined her confidence. Sarah was caught in a dilemma, unable to decide between loyalty to a longtime friend and the need to take care of herself. She knew something needed to change, but she wasn't yet ready to face the full truth about her friendship with Jen. Over time, the tension between Sarah and Jen continued to escalate. Increasingly distressed, Sarah began to open up to people outside of Jen's circle. In these conversations, she found understanding and support, but also a new perspective on the nature of her friendship with Jen. The words of her new friends echoed in her mind. "You deserve to be treated with respect." The decision began to take shape on a particularly difficult night. Jen organized a gathering with the group and insisted that Sarah be present. Despite her apprehensions, Sarah decided to go, hoping that maybe this time would be different. However, the evening unfolded like many others before. Jen criticized Sarah's choices, belittled her opinions, and once again made Sarah feel small and inadequate. As she drove home that night, Sarah felt an unbearable weight on her chest. She knew she couldn't continue like this. The happy memories were no longer enough to compensate for the current suffering. She needed to make a decision, no matter how painful. In the following days, Sarah began to distance herself. She stopped responding promptly to Jen's messages and avoided invitations to meet with the group. Each step back was accompanied by a mix of relief and guilt. The longing for the good times with Jen was overwhelming, but Sarah knew she needed to be firm. The final straw came when Jen confronted Sarah directly. "Why are you avoiding me?" she asked, her voice laden with frustration and hurt. Sarah took a deep breath and, with a lump in her throat, tried to explain her feelings. She spoke about feeling controlled, about the constant criticism, and how it made her feel diminished. Jen, instead of listening, reacted defensively. "I was just trying to help," she said, her voice cold and distant. "If you can't see that, maybe you're better off without me." Those words cut deep but also brought a strange clarity. Sarah realized it wasn't her responsibility to fix something so broken. She needed to take care of herself, even if it meant letting go of a friendship that once meant so much. With tears in her eyes, Sarah told Jen she needed space. It was a moment of intense pain but also of liberation. As she walked away, she felt a huge weight lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt she was taking control of her own life, even though the future seemed uncertain and frightening. The first days after the conversation with Jen were tough for Sarah. She felt lonely and full of doubts. Had she done the right thing? Was she the villain in the story? Questions swirled in her mind, but despite this, there was a new sense of freedom she couldn't deny. To distract herself, Sarah threw herself into new activities. She started practicing yoga and enrolled in painting classes, rediscovering passions she had set aside. At first, it seemed like a desperate attempt to fill the void left by Jen, but slowly, these activities began to bring a true sense of joy and purpose. In her yoga sessions, Sarah learned to focus on her breath and be present in the moment. This new habit brought a mental clarity that helped her reflect on her friendship with Jen in a more objective way. She began to realize that, while there had been many happy moments, the negative aspects could no longer be ignored. Painting classes, on the other hand, were a revelation. Sitting in front of a blank canvas, Sarah felt a creative freedom she hadn't experienced in years. Each brushstroke was an expression of her soul, a way to process her emotions and give voice to her feelings. There, in the silence of the studio, Sarah found a safe space to explore her pain and turn it into art. As days turned into weeks, Sarah began to see things from a new perspective. Time and distance helped her understand that the decision to distance herself from Jen wasn't an act of selfishness but of self-preservation. She began to value her own voice and recognize the importance of setting healthy boundaries in any relationship. Additionally, Sarah started reconnecting with friends she had neglected during the years of closeness with Jen. These old friends welcomed her back with open arms, offering support and understanding. Each new meeting and conversation helped her rebuild her confidence and see life in a new light. The experience with Jen also inspired Sarah to get involved in support groups and blogs dedicated to helping others deal with similar situations. She began sharing her story, offering advice and support to those facing difficulties in toxic friendships. This new role as a counselor brought a sense of purpose and fulfillment that Sarah hadn't imagined before. Over time, Sarah realized that the pain and loss she had experienced had shaped her life in unexpected ways. Each challenge overcome, each friendship regained, and each new passion discovered contributed to her personal growth. She began to see the separation from Jen not as an end but as a new beginning. As Sarah looked to the future, she felt stronger and more secure. The path had been filled with ups and downs, but each step had led her to a place of greater self-acceptance and fulfillment. The journey had not been easy, but it had provided the tools and perspective needed to build a richer and more meaningful life. Sarah was finally ready to move forward, knowing that despite past challenges, the future was full of potential and new friendships that could enrich her life in ways she had never imagined. She embraced the new chapter with courage and hope, grateful for finding the strength within herself to overcome one of the most difficult emotional battles of her life. A few months later, as Sarah was on campus, she happened to run into Jen. The scene took Sarah by surprise. Jen was with a new group of friends, seemingly happy and carefree. The unexpected encounter made Sarah's heart race. Memories of their past friendship and feelings of pain resurfaced. Jen spotted her and, hesitantly, approached. "Hi, Sarah," Jen said, her voice filled with a mix of shyness and curiosity. "How are you?" Sarah took a deep breath, controlling the mix of emotions she felt. "Hi, Jen. I'm doing well. I've been busy with some new projects and focusing on myself." Jen looked at Sarah with a mixture of regret and longing. "I'm sorry for how things ended between us. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I hope you can forgive me." Sarah's eyes softened, and she nodded. "I appreciate your apology, Jen. I've moved on, and I hope you found what you were looking for too." Jen nodded, a wistful smile on her face. "I have. It's been a journey for me as well. I hope you find happiness in everything you do." The conversation ended with a brief hug. As Sarah walked away, she felt a sense of closure and peace. The encounter had been a reminder of her growth and the strength she had found within herself. Sarah's journey through the pain of a broken friendship had ultimately led her to rediscover herself, build new connections, and embrace a life full of possibilities. She knew that, though the path had been tough, it had made her stronger and more resilient, ready to face whatever came next with grace and optimism.